Michael Melore, you are up next.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
My screen.
can.
Oh, okay, great. So I'm with IBM, and I do quite a bit of public speaking. I'm an evangelist for cybersecurity, and Ken can share these slides with you. I don't think I have time to go through all of them, but there's a lot of no-cost education that IBM provides that you could be taking advantage of. So there's a number of links that are on this screen. IBM committed $250 million in new collar initiatives. And part of that is even the training that us IBMers have to take is available open to the public for no cost at skillsbuild.org. So you can take advantage of all of that. There's the IBM Learning Academy that's online. And Ken mentioned about the Security Leaders Roundtable Collaborative that I formed about 7 years ago, 7 or so years ago. And it's a hobby. There's now 28 chapters. There's a chapter for New Jersey. It's grassroots, no cost, and we open up these roundtables at 7:45 a.m. for casual chit chat, and top of the hour we go into whatever the collaborative topic is. And there's a new one on critical infrastructure and CMMC as well. That's a national roundtable that one opens up around noontime Eastern time to accommodate the Pacific time zone. So uh, let's get I'll get going a little bit on this. You folks may not be aware, but IBM's Watson beat the Jeopardy champions in about 14 years ago. And there's a great documentary that's out there that is on YouTube. And they kind of you're watching whether it's going to be a go or no go. In fact, Alex Trebek is not even in the audio in the background in some of the earlier ones, and then later on he's in there. And I won't throw any spoilers, but you could kind of see, maybe in some of this that on how that outcome is that Watson wound up blowing everyone away. So AI's been around since the 1950s, and we haven't really seen it launch though, or until we had a user interface for it, which was ChatGTP. Same thing. I was with Sun Microsystems and Netscape back in the day, and the internet was around since certainly in the 1950s as well. But it wasn't until the World Wide Web where there was a user interface into the internet that really kind of just consumerized the internet for everyone. That's what we're seeing now with AI, ready or not. So there'll be a lot of missteps. In fact, one of my friends, I quote, it, the first report is usually wrong and it's exceedingly difficult to unseat first impressions. And that's kind of where we are with misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. We are certainly being manipulated, even by foreign adversaries. I'm a committeeman for the New York Metro FBI InfraGard, and there's a great video out there made in Beijing where they talk. The FBI actually produced a movie about China's long-term game plan, and I encourage you to take a look at that. I encourage you to join the FBI InfraGard as well. Ken had one of the logos for there's a New York Metro FBI InfraGard, and there's also a chapter for New Jersey. So we're seeing a lot of migration into AI and adoption of AI, and we're seeing the impact of it. Organizations that are embracing it is saving about almost $2 million per incident every time they have it. The gentleman that spoke earlier was talking about the IBM, it's the Ponemon Institute cost of a data breach. IBM's one of the sponsors for that cost of a data breach. You can get that report at no cost. But we're seeing AI empowering attacks, and we're seeing AI even used to manipulate these attacks. We're seeing autonomous attacks even using AI, and we're seeing defense based on AI, almost cat spy versus spy. There's a great video. We don't really have time to get into that, so I'm not going to delay on that. But I encourage you to take a look at that. I'm not Morgan Freeman. And it's really crazy cool where you'll see, Morgan Freeman actually, his lips are moving, but side by side, you'll see this gentleman next to him is actually the one talking. And I've seen a number of these firsthand at some of these conferences that I speak at, where I'm seeing, the person talking, and I'm seeing the video screen right next to them, where it's someone else's voice and all. So it's getting more difficult to distinguish when something is a deep fake and when it's not a deep fake. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm trying to advance my screen here. Next. There's an actor, or well, there's some of these impersonators. This one in particular is a Tom Cruise impersonator. I was actually with one of these Tom Cruise impersonators in San Diego a while back. And man, you know, uh, it's very difficult to even sometimes when we see things firsthand. There's a there used to be a television show. Now these things are on the internet. The Carbonaro Effect, where it's a magician. He does a lot of these sessions where he's in retail stores. These folks come in, and one in particular I love. He's holding up a toaster. Somebody came in to the place and for a toaster repair, and he holds it up upside down. He says, "Oh, I see the problem," and he wiggles it around. And he pulls a piece of toast out, and now before you know it, he's filling up the whole entire counter with pieces of toast that are coming out of the toaster. And so magicians can show us all kinds of things where even sometimes we see things firsthand and we might actually even believe them. So let alone what we can be doing in deep fakes. So there's a couple of tools out there that are no cost that we can take advantage of. One of them is from TinEye. So if you see an image and you're not really sure and you want to maybe investigate to see if it's a deep fake or not, you could put the URL, you could put the image, you could put the video into some of these tools like TinEye or even Google reverse image search, and it'll tell you, based on risk scores, if it's likely a deep fake. So, I mean, we're seeing these things all over the place, even in Instagram images and all. Some of these deep fakes have challenges. So here we might think that this is a polar bear playing the bass guitar, and there might be some sophisticated polar bears that play bass guitar. But if we look closely at the images, sometimes we can see, look around the strings where his fingers are and all, and we might say, well, maybe this is not a real polar bear playing the bass guitar based on that. And the technology is called GANs, where we have generative adversarial networks, and we have these generators and discriminators, and these are cycles that these tools are running, even among themselves, to try to see where they can refine some of the images and make them and clean them up a little bit more so they look better and better. And again, the technology is advancing, and the tools that are identifying the deep fakes have to keep up with the technology. And it's and again, they're running the gyrations of this to constantly improve the images over and over again, so they're getting better and better. We're not really seeing so much of these distortions. And let's talk a little bit. So here's another video that was out there with Will Smith, and we could see in 2023, where we could really see AI. And then later on, we had, some more sophisticated. In fact, Will Smith even generated some video because he, got a kick out of the first one of him eating pasta. And so and here now we have the Pope here, and we can start looking at some things in here where we might, for the forensic folks who are actually looking at some of these things, when our first glance, if you're not really looking at it from a forensic perspective, you might not catch. You see the chain around his jacket we don't see the chain actually displayed on the other side. We're seeing, some things with the glasses that are kind of fused with his skin. We can, start seeing those things. You start honing in on that a little more and more. Here we might see some kids playing soccer, and we start looking again. Those fingers are very difficult for the AI generations. And so if we look at their hands, we could start seeing, that the hands are distorted, maybe a couple of extra fingers on there. Uh, we see the child here on the right-hand side has an extra foot behind him. So you can, maybe start looking at some of these. You can look at the faces. So the faces kind of all look similar on this. This one, we could, is it deep fake or is it not a deep fake? And, start looking at some of these areas in the background, and you might have caught her hands there, in there where, we could see some distorted, they're really feet. This one was recent on Instagram. They show you these fellas where they're, trying to help out a polar bear that has a lot of barnacles and stuff, and they're really cleaning up the polar bear, and it really looked terrific, and you're looking at these fellas, but again, take a good look at the hands, those distorted hands and all, and then now you look on the right hand side of the polar bear and take a look at the claws. And on that, you could start seeing there's a lot more than five. Generally, the polar bear has five claws. And, but that AI generator, kind of put a number of others. But again, this video looks fantastic when you're looking at these fellas cleaning up this polar bear, and just seems like a wonderful thing that they're doing. And this polar bear is ultra friendly, just almost thanking them for doing that. So the bias can come from a lot of different perspectives as well. I started my career around 1978. In those days, there weren't a lot of women that were systems engineers just in that day. So that is actually a bias that, that's data, historical data that's just influenced based on the way that it was. So we want to look at that when we start looking at data sets, and how it's arriving at its hypothesis. So the Biden administration initiated a lot of governance aspects in AI. My organization, a lot of organizations are running catch up now, trying to figure out, but they had the barn door open, and they weren't even sure how the foundational models were populated. So my organization was very, cautious and careful in how it was training Watson, and we have Watson X out there, and so you know I think we should always be able to identify how AI arrives at a hypothesis, what type of risk there could be in the data, which foundational models were used and all. And I think if you don't have that information, you shouldn't trust anything that's given. We wouldn't do that in real life. So certainly I think that's very valuable, and there should always be trust and governance in AI. So I'll just move a little bit faster, but 75% of the organizations didn't even identify their breaches on their own. So they had to be notified from external entities that they were hacked. So these are the value propositions that AI provides, where they could tell you, is something real? Is it not real? Is it something I can handle in my skill set? If it is real, then maybe there's remediation information. So when we start looking at that for incident response systems and all, it's certainly a significant value add. Let's talk a little bit about quantum. So quantum's new out there. You can go to IBM.com. You can actually start playing with quantum. So it is real. It's out there. It's just a few hundred qubits that we're offering for free that you can start playing with at no cost. But I play music around the Jersey Shore, and so I like to break that down. When we look at binary, we have ones and zeros, right? So I'm taking now quantum into a music concept. So where a 4 count or a measure would be a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we would have another measure of four, a 4 count maybe of 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how it would be depicted on there. Now let's take that into binary, and we'll still kind of stuff those ones and zeros into measures. And that's how that's how we're all computing right now with these ones and zeros. And anything that's in between a 1 and 0 is noise, and it's discarded in binary. And that's how we could, go distances with digital data versus analog, because we're only recognizing either an electron of on or off, basically, in an expected measure. Let's use that back to the music again. Now let's talk about quantum. And what we have in quantum is we're no longer just reliant on ones and zero electrons. What we're able to do now is measure the noise in between the 1 and the 0. So at this point now we have a three-dimensional bit, a quantum bit. So we're able to take that information that we used to just discard, and then now we're measuring that in that three-dimensional quantum bit, and we're overlaying that over and over and over and over and over again. So we're getting massive numbers of these overlays. And that's how we're getting to this exponential capability in how many qubits. And, there's machines from IBM and Google and Microsoft. I mean, they're working on, hundreds of thousand qubits now. The problem that we're having now is, or the risk with quantum, is the de-encryption. So the encryption algorithms that exist today, we're expected to decipher those encryption models in maybe 10, 12 years. Well, when we throw that into quantum, now we're able to decipher the current encryption algorithms in maybe 3 to 4 seconds. So, so that means any of the data that's been harvested and archived, and foreign adversaries sitting on this encrypted data that they haven't been able to decipher will someday be able to decipher that information. So that's horrifying when we start thinking about, all of the data that's out there, all the intellectual property that's been exfiltrated and just sitting out there in the wild. So we're running kind of out of time. I just want to hit home on just that cost of a data breach report that was out here. These are the statistics from the 2024 report. So the average cost of a breach was about $10 million per incident. Internationally, about $4.8 million per incident, but in the United States, we're a higher lucrative target, and it we're seeing a lot more costs associated with it. The amount of time to identify and remediate situations were over 200 days. Organizations that were able to reduce that to under 200 days could save well over $1 million based on doing that. There's a number of different aspects in how AI could introduce value to organizations, and that's all in that data breach report that's available in there. So I encourage you to take that in there, and you could use some of that. The number one attack vector was stolen and compromised credentials, and you could see the actual individual controls and how they might have contributed to a higher cost of a breach or reduce the amount of a breach based on those different controls. And last but not least, I always end my sessions with a call to action and how we can help one another, our families, our friends. So there's four credit bureaus in the United States: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and Innovis. We're very fortunate in the United States that we can go to these credit bureaus and we can ask them to freeze our credit. When you go to their websites, sometimes it will be obscure to get to the free lock your credit reporting, but it's there. And they want you to subscribe to their services, of course. So, the low hanging fruit when you go to these sites are maybe to subscribe to their secure services and all. But you should be able to easily find the means for freezing and locking down your credit reporting. Now, the beauty of that is that if anyone steals your identity or your family's, they won't be able to open up anything on credit, because before you're credit worthy, whoever's loaning you money wants to see that you're credit worthy. So they'll go to these credit bureaus and they'll look for your report. And if they can't get the report, then they can't justify that you're credit worthy. And chances are you're not going to go get you're not they're not going to give you that credit card or sell you that boat or that house or whatever. So if you're hacked, that's the first thing you want to tell someone that reaches out to you. What should I do? You're going to tell them lock down your credit. So get in front of that. Tell everybody ahead of time. Freeze your credit, and your friends and family will avoid a lot of pain. And now, when you go to buy that boat or house, you can go to these sites or that car, and you can go and you can unlock that credit. You can unlock it for a day, for 2 days. You could tell them, who is initiating the credit search on your behalf, and maybe just allow, that entity to have access to your credit report. Or again, you can do it just through a time window for maybe a 3-day window or a 2-day window, and have it automatically even default back to lock state if you wanted to. So I encourage you to take a look and do that. So Ken, I'll wrap up there. Ken, you're muted.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Excellent, Michael, as always. Thank you very much. And I posted your video that you wanted to show to everybody so they can click on it, okay, and see
Thanks.
the deep fake. I have a question for you myself. I don't know if you know the answer, but from an educational standpoint, I want to do like security awareness training for my company, and I want to show them how easy it is to make a deep fake video of somebody at work. How hard is that to do these days?
Uh, I don't know how it is on the free services. I know that there's tools that you could purchase to do that. So you might have to do a subscription with some of these advanced folks to show a cool one.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because
So,
I'm looking to do that, because the last thing we want is for people to not know about these,
yeah.
and to have a plan just to verify that people are who they are, because it's very scary. I mean, most people here have heard about the one where somebody got scammed a company got scammed out of millions of dollars because they thought they were talking to the CEO. And
Yeah, yeah, you're in a meeting right now, like a web meeting, and it might not be them, and and they're asking you to do something. So what you really should have is a safe word with your family. And the same way that maybe you might discuss, if you have a fire in the house, everyone meet, in front of your neighbor's house or in front of the mail, used to be these mailboxes. There's not mailboxes anymore, but maybe everybody run to the corner and we all meet so we all know that we got out of the house, or whatever. So, that same plan, to come up with a safe word. So that way, if somebody does contact you and says that we have your child hostage or whatever the reason is, or your grandson is, with us, and, I'm the attorney, and, you need to send some bail money, that safe word that only your family knows that they could use. So that's some good practice to have.
All right, great. Does anybody have any further questions for Michael? If not, I will open it up since we got a couple of minutes left. Let's thank everybody again for Michael and Vishal